Yo, what's up? It's your boy Cyrus from MTV. You know me. I'm a representative of the Westcoast Collective. And when you guys get thirsty, want to drink a little something, check out drinkglow.com. Drinkglow.com. It's your boy Cyrus. You know how we do. Just follow on through and check out that Westcoast Collective.
Man, with all the crazy stuff that's going on in the world, I had to create a podcast. It's for me and you to connect dots. You ready? Let's go.
You have now entered
ready. Everybody know I'm
Westcoast Collective Podcast.
Yeah, you talking all that mess.
You better be ready. Come correct. Have your facts ready. Everything is relative. But to me, it's about community. It's about respect. It's about honor. It's about intellectuals. It's about motivation. It's bringing it hard. You ready? Let's go.
Dr. Simmons.
Yes, sir.
Hey. Thank you for calling back. I have one of my mentors and longtime friend, Anthony Brewster, on the line. Anthony Brewster, this is Dr. James Simmons.
Hi, Dr. Simmons. How are you, sir? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
There you go. Yes. Oh, okay.
Okay, so today I wanted to get Dr. Simmons on the line because I didn't know this man, and I saw him speak, and I saw his actions, and I was just amazed and blown away that we have these jewels right around us, and we don't utilize them, or at least I don't. And I say, man, I got to get in contact with this brother so that maybe he can enlighten us or bring some of his wisdom, knowledge, and experience and expertise to the table that maybe, that we're lacking. So, I respect the elder, and I'd like to introduce him. His name is Dr. James Simmons, a professor at Cal State Northridge and an attorney at law. Mr. Simmons, welcome.
Thank you. Very happy to be here.
Yes, sir. So, Dr. Simmons, can you just tell us about what took place or how you saw what took place on last Sunday at Virginia Avenue Park?
Okay. Well, first I have to warn you, I am at a community center. We're about to do training in Capoeira Angola.
Okay.
Which is an African martial art. So you might hear noise every once in a while and other people talking.
Okay.
So please, I apologize in advance.
No, that's okay. That's okay because we got you on a whim. So we just appreciate any knowledge you can drop on us.
Okay. Now, I was invited to speak on, ironically, how to deal with these right-wing provocateurs. My understanding is that several of them had come to the last meeting in masks, and that the police were unwilling to do anything to prevent them from their provocations in terms of trying to disrupt the meeting, etc. So I arrived. There were at least a couple of dozen to say 20, about 25 to 50. I wasn't counting, and I really couldn't understand who was who at first. Because they didn't have uniforms on or tags that said I'm a white supremacist or a white separatist or a white nationalist. So I didn't know who was who. I know I was allowed in and others were not. I know that all of the seats were taken, and especially considering the potential for disruption and violence, that they weren't letting people in, especially if they were going to be disruptive. So I thought that was good. I had spoken with Sister Trudy Goodwin before, and I mentioned that no matter what the police said, that you could put on, even if it's a public space, who is allowed in and who can be excluded, and what the conduct should be. Because if you're having a kid's birthday party, you're not going to have somebody come in there and cussing and fuming and throwing weapons around. You know, that might be great for a martial arts demonstration, but it's not going to be good for a children's birthday party. And a political meeting or a meeting to discuss one thing, for people of like mind, that need not tolerate that kind of disruption. So, and people can be disinvited. And that was one of the suggestions I had was, and they had already, I guess, done so, put a sign up saying this will not be allowed. Disruptions, discourteous or foul language, fighting, etc. And so those rules were clearly posted on the outside. And while I was waiting to speak, there was apparently they had tried, these right-wing nationalists tried to rush the door. And that's when I went outside and saw you and a bunch of other folks. And I think it was you saying we need more soldiers on the line.
That's right.
So you know, as old and crippled as I am, I just tried to push your back.
That's right. That's right.
Like, brother, you kind of wide, so I was safe. they would have to reach way around to stop me. So let me stay behind this brother and push as hard as I can.
Yes, sir.
And now, one thing error I made, and I think we should always be errors, is I was trying to get people to close the door, and I cursed.
Yes.
As I was shouting.
Yes.
At people to close the door, and I think that was an error. I wouldn't have cursed.
Doctor, not to cut you off, but you know what? I spoke to Miss Robbie Jones, one of the organizers, and I had the same thing, because when I first walked up there and I saw that, I was enraged, you know, and all the principles and stuff, morals and stuff went out the window. I want to fight now, you know, and that's why I thought it was most important, again, to speak with you. And I want my brother, Anthony Brewster, to chime in, because he wasn't there. He was on the road, he's a musician. But these are the things that they want us to do. You know, they want us to react in a manner so that they can call us violent, you know.
Right. Yeah. But, you know, the language and the shouting that they did, and it's not for them. And it wasn't for the police. It was for basically the attendees, because I think that's unseemly to be cursing.
Right.
You know, especially if I'm trying to calm the situation down. But I had my cane as I was pushing you. I was holding on to my cane.
Yes, sir.
You know, and then I felt someone tugging my cane, and it was the plainclothes officer, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I turned around, because from Santa Monica Police. Mm-hmm. I turned around and I pulled it back, like, don't touch my cane.
Yeah.
And I didn't speak the words, but I hope the look on my face conveyed that. It was some white male.
Yeah.
Adult white male pulling on my cane.
Yes.
And I didn't see any blows exchanged, because, brother, you blocked the view.
Yeah.
With your wide back. But and thank goodness again that it was wide. That apparently you take care of yourself. So, but eventually they were pushed back. The doors were closed, and we went in. I did my speaking, and the next thing, as I was speaking, and I had pretty much said what I was going to say. Excuse me, Aaron, could you pull that in also? While I was speaking, again, these white nationalist right-wingers started to apparently pull on the door. And they had breached the the door from the outside to the lobby, and then they were inside the lobby pulling on the door. My understanding, and I didn't see it, but there was this plainclothes officer on the door, and I hope he's listening.
Yes.
And if he can correct me, but my understanding is that he was there to stop violence. But these people were yanking on the door, pulling on the door. So I was trying to go outside. They said, no, you can't. Got to go. I said, well, okay. They said, if you go out, you can't come back in. I said, okay, well, cool. So I went around the front, saw them yanking on the door.
Yes.
Without intervention. And so I went up to the line of officers just calmly standing there. And I said, I don't know if you know, but these people are using force trying to enter the meeting. And as soon as I said that, he motioned and two officers came off the line and started walking toward the building. He said, I already got people on there. Yeah, you got people on there when I came up and told you.
Right.
But you knew.
Right.
And you have your boy right there. Your plain clothes cop. He wasn't undercover because everybody knew he was a cop. He was right there. Apparently, he had let them through, and I don't know if it was you or somebody else said that. How did that happen? How did you let these people in? Yes, sir. 1133. That's other building. Yes, sir. So we. That went unanswered, but at that point they were saying, let us in, white lives matter, blue lives matter, chanting, trying to disrupt the meeting. And at one point, I yelled out, all the seats are taken, there's no more room. They said, we'll stand. I said, there's no standing. And so then there's one guy, one of the primary provocateurs, said, he said, are you a Jew? And I said, are you a Nazi? And he went, Heil Hitler.
Oh, wow.
Wow. And I was fumbling with my phone for about half an hour trying to get Facebook Live on, but, I'm not familiar. I am now. Yeah. But I missed it. And that was a moment I hope someone got it, and I hope someone posted it.
Wow.
But he started to Heil Hitler and all that. And and again, I have to apologize because I yelled out F Hitler. And this is a tactic I use, and I've used on the street to draw police attention from someone who is less able to defend themselves. So I was trying to draw them outside, but they took their time. They continued to chant. And eventually they came out. And then at one point, there was three primary ones. They're all mixed up in my head now. But one said, what are you? And I said, what do you mean? What am I? He said, what are you? And he said, I said, what do you mean? He said, looks like you're from the Middle East. Are you a Jew? And I said, what difference does it make what my religion is? Right. And he said, Jew is not a religion, it's a race. I said, okay, I know where you're coming from. Yeah. And I said, why would I tell you? He said, so we went back and forth on that. And he denied he was a Nazi, but then it was explained to me later, Nazis don't exist anymore. Nazis were limited to Germany, so they don't consider themselves Nazis. If anything, they're National Socialists. And some of them were not National Socialists or so-called neo-Nazis. They were white nationalists and separatists. Okay. And supporters of Trump. So parsing the words, they're saying, oh, no, I'm not a white supremacist. Oh, no, I'm not a Nazi. But in fact, essentially, they are Nazis, admirers, and followers of Adolf Hitler. And so it went back and forth. There was lots of discussion. Lots of arguing, and for some reason people were trying to convince them the error of their ways and arguing with them, and they were clearly trying to bait people into a fight. There was lots of name calling, lots of posturing, and there were some people from the community there, and some brothers especially, who didn't like the fact that these people were trying to get away with trying to disrupt the meeting, and one I'll call him a white nationalist, had a shirt on that represented either, I think it represented Jewish people, or a green figure, looked like a frog or a monster, and he was baiting a lot. He was videotaping and baiting a lot. There was also a guy there with a radical agenda or something shirt on, tall white guy, and it turns out he is a nationally known white nationalist. I'll give you his name in a minute, because I did finally get Facebook Live on, and someone fortunately was able to provide some of the names for some of those people.
Okay.
Now, one of the interesting things was there were a lot of Latinos there, and claiming to be white. And one guy said he was 70% European. And this is what was puzzling to me, because I never heard it work, where you could be the one drop rule for white people, because they talk about the purity of the white race.
Yes.
And I said, you're with Trump, you're pumping this line. And I said, number one, he's going to sell out the white. He said, don't you think he's going to sell out the white working class? And they were arguing and defending it and defending this white nationalism. Yeah. And it was odd to see so-called Latinos, whether they were South American or Central American, Mexican, defending white supremacy, because that's one of the main targets of the alt-right white nationalism today is Latinos.
Yes, sir.
I didn't see any violence. Somebody threw a pacifier at somebody, and there's one guy. As he was trying to get in the door, he said, "He pushed me. He pushed me." Yo, break.
Hold on.
You know, people flopping for a foul, but that was the extent of the violence. But the fact that people from the community were there, I think, was essential in preventing violence. You and the others who stood at the door, those who didn't allow them to stop the meeting, who went forward with the meeting, that was all good. It was all good and all necessary. Yes, otherwise, they're empowered. They're empowered to keep it up.
Yes, sir.
I
don't mean to rudely interrupt you, sir, but I know we're on limited time. And I just my man Cyrus, who's also my big bro and a mentor in this whole thing, he just joined the podcast, and I have him on the line as well. Cyrus, you want to say what's up to our good brother, Mr. James Simmons?
How you doing, brother? I'm good. How are you, brother? That's good. I can't complain at all.
That's right. All right. I want to have Mr. Anthony Brewster. Brew, you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Brew. You heard the professor, and he talked about what was going down that day. And I know, you and I have been discussing this situation that's going on in our neighborhood. What are some questions? Ask the professor a couple of questions that you may be concerned with.
Well, I mean, the first of all, how you doing, doctor?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm okay. I just, I think, I was out of town, but I had friends who were there, so I'm watching it on their phones, and it's I think the disturbing part for me is that, I guess from the outside looking in, it could be portrayed as like just angry folks of the community and that are not giving, certain folks a chance. And it's not really that way, because that's not the way we grew up as a community, So with that being said, with you saying that the community was essential in being there, that those are the type of plans and the type of organizing that I would like to be a part of, that maybe you can help guide us to let us know that the certain things, and because you can't fight fire with fire, you fight fire with water.
Exactly.
So the best thing to do is to unite and to put this fire out. So I think it's just getting some direction, with that, because there are a lot of people out there that are confused. I know, I took the time to go on their site. I took time to check out Red Elephant, their Facebook, their website, the whole thing, and it's funny because it's being portrayed as a bunch of angry Black and Mexican folks. You know what I mean? And like even us who have grew up in a multicultural city such as Santa Monica, we have our friends that don't know how to feel about things because I'm from the outside looking in. It just looks like a bunch of angry folks, and that's my concern. You know what I mean? I have multicultural kids that I grew up here the same way, and it's that I think that part has to be addressed as far as the people who don't know what's going on. First, it's about information, then it's about organization. So if you can help us and guide us in that direction, that would be wonderful.
Well, I think that we always we need to tell the truth. And there's a great Pan-African thinker, a revolutionist, the one who put in motion the liberation of Guinea-Bissau and the Cape Verde Islands, Amilcar Cabral, one of the great thinkers of the 20th century. And one of his most famous quotes is, "Tell no lies, expose lies wherever they're told, and claim no easy victories." When people lie and say it was a mob of angry Blacks and Browns, it just like they had to expose it as a lie. And this is where you can't be afraid to tell the truth and be about the truth. And there's no need to soft pedal what you're doing in order to make people feel comfortable, because some people are just going to be uncomfortable with the course of action that you're taking. And this is why I asked the question about nonviolence. The fact that there are times when and a great many times when the nonviolent civil rights movement was not nonviolent. It was not. Yeah. And if it wasn't, the thing was, let's not us be violent. Let's use the state as surrogates for violence, because they would have been wiped out otherwise. And we look back at why did lynching end? Well, it didn't end because the FBI tried to deal with it, because the FBI wasn't interested. It wasn't because local police departments were interested in stopping violence, because sometimes they participated in it. Sometimes they initiated it. And it wasn't because all of a sudden the good white folks of the South decided, hey, we're not going to lynch Black folks anymore. It was because in World War I and World War II, Black soldiers went to Europe, and those who could wound up fighting and killing Europeans. This is just a fact. This is not, we're not fantasizing. We're not saying, hey, you should go kill white people. But they came back with, if I'm going to go fight for somebody else's rights, I'm certainly going to fight for my own rights here. And if white people could die from the bullet from my gun, who are trying to oppress people in Europe, then they damn well sure can die here. And the fact that there was a new wave of people who were not willing to tolerate lynching and torture. And this is why the Klan had to change tactics and started bombing churches and bombing homes, because they no longer could lynch folks. But it was not the police who stopped them. It was individuals and organizations like the Deacons for Defense and Justice, the NAACP, the NAACP in Monroe, North Carolina, and other organizations. Eventually, the Black Panther Party, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, who drove the white racists in the South to stop lynching Black people. So this is there's no need to apologize. You know, like brother, you said I apologize to rudely cut me off. No, just cut me off. I needed to be quiet because so you could introduce other people. Just tell me that, you know.
Well, you know, this is the thing, Professor. I study. I've been studying ancient Kemet for a little while now, and I know one thing for sure. As an African, is to respect your elders, and I think that this is one thing that we, as a community, need to start going back to some of those African principles. But that's just my own interpretation. Hey, Cyrus.
Oh, I agree. I perfectly agree. Yes. I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So, hey, Cyrus.
Yes.
You got any? I need you to ask the professor a question.
My whole thing is like looking back in the day and seeing the way things came about, change and so forth, and us standing up and trying to fight back. This was a modern day, should I say, situation that had to mirror that back in the day. People were asking me, why am I getting involved and why am I being a part of this? And they're telling me that I live such a privileged life and that this, and this. And they're trying to make it sound as though any struggle that I've had hasn't been a struggle. That's typical every day. It's not about my personal struggles. We all have struggles. You may not see it. You may look at it differently. But my question to you is, these modern day brothers, a lot of them don't feel like they have that struggle. Don't understand what that struggle is and or see that. Do you see similarities in the time today as in the time back then?
Of course. And people talk about, well, if I was back in the day, I would have accepted segregation like that, and I wish they would tell me I couldn't ride. But there are more people in prison now than there were during enslaved Africans during the time of enslavement. There are plenty of unjustified extrajudicial killings of unarmed innocent people by the police. There are plenty of acts of violence, whether explicit violence by use of guns and bombs, but acts of violence where people are beaten, and that's why I don't call it police brutality, and the people I associate with don't call it police brutality. Those are crimes. Those are crimes. And so people have the opportunity to fight against that. And the law, like what's his name, Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton apologized for putting laws into effect that packed the prisons so tight that there was considered cruel and unusual punishment for trifling amounts of drugs and treating the drug problem like a criminal problem. Well, see, now we have this opioid epidemic, and an opioid epidemic, they're not talking about rolling out tanks. They're talking about health care, and as part of the health care bill, because you cannot defeat drugs with guns. You cannot defeat addiction and kill the market with military weapons and military tactics. This is a health problem. And I wish they had considered a health problem when they were snatching black people up. And I was working at the Federal Public Defender's Office in 1987 at the time, and the U.S. Attorney's Office came out with black gangs and cocaine. So they had a black man with a rifle throwing up a gang sign, and this is like the epitome. This is the enemy. And sure enough, they just shoveled people into the prison. So yes, it is very much like back in the day. I brought up a situation in terms of the criminal justice or criminal sanction system. And then you have what happened on 6th and Vernon a couple of years ago, New Year's Eve, where an avowed Klansman attacked a group of people and wound up getting beat down himself and wasn't prosecuted, which harkens back in the day when the Klan killed 5 people in Greensboro, North Carolina. They were prosecuted, but all of them were released. You have this constant stream of police killings of unarmed people and killings of so-called vigilantes, but they're not vigilantes because vigilantes are supposed to enforce the law. These people are killing black people willy-nilly, and they're getting away with it. So there's plenty to compare with the past. There's discrimination in housing, there's discrimination in employment, there's discrimination in insurance, there's discrimination everywhere you look. There's gentrification. I used to live in Venice for 17. I think it was 17 years. I lived in Venice, and from Oakwood to closer to the shore. And gentrification has basically taken the neighborhood. And when you look at where gang injunctions are in effect, they're in effect where there are plans to gentrify. So if you go to streetgangs.com, they have a map and they have this analysis of that. So we know what happened in Santa Monica. Why is there a CME church on 4th Street? It's an all-white neighborhood. Why is there a CME church? Well, because it used to be a black neighborhood. Then they moved everybody over by the graveyard. Am I correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So this forced removal and considering black people redundant objects to move, superfluous appendages to move at will. It's happened in Phoenix, where I used to live. It's happened in Venice, where I used to live, and it's about to happen in Leimert Park. So it is happening right here at Chuco's Justice Center, where I'm speaking from. They're about to take that and take this whole neighborhood. They're turning this community center, and they're going to tear it down and everything else on this block, the African church, the Latino churches, the other African-American church, and the other African church. There's a whole bunch of churches on this block. And they're going to tear it down and make it a multi-use, commercial, residential zone for people with money. So are things the same? No, they're not the same. Some ways they're worse because people don't think, because it's not in the law. Segregation is not in the law. That it's not as bad as it used to be, but in some cases it's worse. And then you have a president. I'm sorry, I'm just rambling on. But the president who won't apologize for the bombing of a mosque. He didn't call it terrorism. When a white terrorist traveled from Baltimore to New York and killed a black man because he wanted to, he didn't call that terrorism. The executive of this country it appears to be beholden to the white right, and Congress is not far behind. So yes, things are very similar. There's plenty of reasons to fight, and if you don't fight, then when somebody comes and busts you upside your head and shoots you or your family member, you'll be saying, why won't anybody help? Well, because people say, hey, it don't concern me.
Right. Hey, so Professor, that you're absolutely right on 100%. Now, we're going to focus now back on Santa Monica, and since we come from this multicultural, diverse community, how can we get the message out to other folks who are not black, but we need their support as well. Not saying that we don't, because if you were at the meeting, there were white folks there, and there are white organizers who are part of it. But those of us, like Bruce said, where people are calling him with concerns, or Cyrus is saying, people are saying, why are you getting involved? How can we get these people to understand that it's bigger than maybe just us individually, and that we have no choice as African Americans but to stand with our people? So how can we get that message across without sounding, I can't say without sounding, but how can we get that message across so that people aren't, separated? We need their help. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you don't have to separate, but there are some people who just not come along, and they're going to enjoy their privilege or their perceived privilege, whether it's by race, ethnicity, class. Hey, I don't want to be bothered with those Negroes, and I don't, it's not concerned me. I don't have a problem. I used to live in Santa Monica. I used to live by Ocean Park in two different times of my life. And the most recent time was like 1975, 76, 77. And I still have a photograph of a swastika painted on a garbage can. Now, those people, you may not be able to change, and their friends, you may not be able to change. But doesn't mean because you fight for the rights of your people that you're a racist or anything else. And if people are uncomfortable with that, well, then they're just going to have to be uncomfortable with it.
That's right.
And when, I'm a member of Black August Los Angeles. one of the things that we celebrate is that in the prison movement, just recently, when there had been years of warfare between black, brown, and white, they came together to stop this incarceration in the secure housing unit for decades. Now, under international standards, like 2 weeks is like will drive a person crazy. People have been locked up in 4x8 cells without other human contact for 30 and 40 years. So there was a cessation of hostilities with some breaches, but there has been a general cessation of hostilities between whites, blacks, and Mexicans, and that is celebrated. We celebrate that. Doesn't mean that we're not advocating for black people. And there's some black people say, oh, you know, it's a bunch of illegals or it's white people or whatever, but that's no concern to us. Do we have the same interest? Do we have an interest to end the violence? Do you have an interest to end exploitation? And if the answer is yes, then we should get together on some level. We're not going to get together on all levels. Because all black people are not going to get together on all levels. We're just not going to do it. But we get together, we seek advice, and then there's a whole political admonition: agitate, educate, organize. And educating yourself, again, dealing with people with experience. And they don't have to be elders, but it's good because a lot of elders have good experience. But every elder ain't wise, and every old person ain't an elder.
Yes,
so every elder has not been on the front lines. Right. Again, let me go back. I appreciate the fearlessness, and we talk about fearless discipline. And when I was trying to get people up at Chuco's, the National Socialist movement was going to come to Chuco's and shut down a meeting, supposedly. And I called up a group of martial artists who came, and they were willing to get with whoever came in the Chuco's. And there's like, they're not getting in the door without casualties. It doesn't mean we're going to go out and hurt them, but if they try to come in, like they were trying to do at Virginia Park, I'm telling you, there would have been blood on the ground.
It sure would have.
And I was encouraging people not to do that at the park because there's a time and place for everything, and that was not strategic.
Right.
And not letting your emotions get away with you.
Right.
But when the time comes, in the right time, in the right place, then that kind of response may be necessary, and we shouldn't use violence unless it's absolutely necessary.
Okay.
Use force.
Okay, I appreciate that answer. Brew.
Yes.
It's on you, baby.
Man, I would like to take a step further, man, and for us to even get together, and sit down and organize, like you said, agitate, educate, and organize. So it's like the agitation is done, you know what I mean? Now let's educate and organize. So that's where I'm at, I mean, it's 2 weeks to the next meeting. We have time to sit down and unite and be together as one and know what, how, when, where, and why we're doing what we're doing.
Hey, Professor, Anthony Brewster, he made up a good point to me earlier. Wait, there's some feedback. I wonder where's that coming from.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, Anthony Brewster. That's what
he told her? Yeah.
Okay. He was talking earlier, and he asked about at this meeting, what if we had like a wristband or something like that, so we know who's who? You know what I'm saying? Like if we pass out wristbands, so that we can recognize that okay, even though that's a white guy, that's my brother. Even though that's a Mexican guy, he's on my side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, that makes sense. And more than wristbands, T-shirts.
Yeah, that's what I suggested.
T-shirts and hats.
Yeah, I just spoke on the power of like Black Lives Matter. When you saw somebody who didn't have had a shirt that wasn't black, then you're like, okay, well, I know where you stand. You know what I mean? And it's it's just a way to unite the people as one and recognize it visually. I had a lot of friends who weren't black that were there, and they were like, they were just honestly confused on like, okay, well, what is this about? Is it because they're standing out there with the white nationalists. So that's that's the story that they're hearing. That's the consensus that they're getting. You know, so I don't want them to become a casualty of like that separatism.
Okay, now who would be a casualty of separatism?
Just our brothers and sisters that aren't black, that are there, that don't know where and how to stand with us. And so that's why we brought up the idea of a wristband or a T-shirt or, you know, something that just shows unity. What I mean by casualty is you know, again, like I had white friends that were there that came there to support me, to support my you know, to support me basically, and because of, you know, it's the old saying of like, okay, when you argue with a fool from a distance, they don't know who's who. So it's like that was the consensus of like, you know, my friends that were there that wanted to stand and unite with us but didn't know how. So that's why we're trying to come up with the idea again of like a T-shirt or a ribbon or a wristband or something that says.
Yeah, well, it's very easy to do that. Like I said, I'm a member of Black August Los Angeles. We're getting shirts printed up now, so people can stand and know who members of Black August Los Angeles is. And we have supporters who are from the Brown Berets. We have white and Asian allies. So you don't have to. And some people may want to do that, and that's fine for them. You don't want to do that, don't do it. You do what you need to do to uphold your principles. And if your principles include the inclusion of other folks, then include them. You don't have to apologize for it. You don't have to make excuses for it. You don't have to apologize to them. And if they don't understand, then again, well, what can be done? You can only do what you can do.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with the professor on that, and that was a great idea too, Brew. Hey, Cy, what you got for the professor?
Yeah. And I don't know, it's just one of those situations. I just can't believe that it's so blatantly put out into our faces like it has been, and people are completely outraged.
Well, I mean,
there were more people involved. I thought there would be more people involved in the whole situation.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just educating and bringing awareness. You know, some folks just don't know, man, and they need to know, and it's just, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a friend, and the majority of his friends were white. He's a black man, grew up in South Central Los Angeles, in Pasadena. And he was very comfortable. And after 9/11, he heard so much racism come from his friends, he cut most of them loose. He said he just didn't know where that was coming from. And as he says, he was a student of mine at People's College of Law. He said, I always shock his suburban sensibilities. But there are some people who, again, they will hold race and class over friendship any day of the week.
Yeah.
And so there are some people you can help, and then some people you can't. And that goes for black people and white people and Latinos and Asians and whoever else, and Native Americans. But let me, before I forget, on Saturday, I will be speaking at a meeting. That's this Saturday, August 12th, a parent connection group at Virginia Park. 9:30 to 1:30.
And I'll be there.
And we're going to be talking about race for the parent connection group.
Okay.
So we'll touch on some of these issues. Now, if these clowns come up there, and again, I don't know, because people were in a panic because I kind of broadcasted live, Facebook Live. And people are like, how can we get there? It's like, we don't even know where it is. Because I just turned the camera on. And whenever there's a meeting like that, there should be security. We had a meeting at the Afiba Center in Slauson and Crenshaw. We had security there. We don't expect right-wingers, but anybody could come up in there. The police, gangbangers, any reactionary force who might want to do us harm, may come up in there.
I also want to invite you all and anybody listening to well, not anybody listening, because those who are enemies should not come, and hostile should not come. But the Black Panther Party Southern California chapter has hosts a breakfast for former members and members of the community. And it's open to everybody. There are white people who come, brown people who come, Asian people who come, young and old come. And this month will be the Black August edition, which is usually the most well-attended and most, I won't say solemn, but it is the most, I won't say dynamic because I'm part of it, but it is well worth the visit because we do talk about fallen members of the party and other martyrs of the movement.
And there's also, you know what, I just saw a GoFundMe for the good brother Hashim Nzinga. And there's a GoFundMe for Hashim Nzinga. I believe it's Hashim Nzinga GoFundMe. And that brother has been putting in work for us for many, many years. So, like you say, if anybody listening under my sound of my voice, please go and donate. If it's $1, $5, or whatever, because I hear he's not doing so well. Have you heard?
Oh, really?
Doc?
No, I hadn't heard that. I know he was chair of the new Black Panther Party.
Yeah.
And he's been the ideal with a lot of former Panthers from the Panther Party out of Oakland, California. They don't not quite get along. But I understand that he has been on the front line for many years. First as an aide to Khalid Muhammad, and now as the chair of the new Black Panther Party. So if he's not doing well, we need to find out about it. We need to deal with that.
Absolutely.
You know, for those who wish, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, we're going to wrap up this show, but I do want to, if you guys have anything else to say or to add before we let the doctor go, if y'all want to do it now.
Show up and represent.
Yeah.
Show up and represent.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And Professor, man, I appreciate you so much. I will see you Saturday. And I appreciate you and just thank you for coming on and talking to us and just giving us a little bit more of information and a surety on where we're taking this thing and what we need to do. We're going to keep on calling you and talking to you. Now, this ain't the last time.
Okay, well, I'm open to it. Look, all the comrades that I know, a lot of them are old in the hospital. Like we joke, we're gonna wind up taking our own selves to the funeral home.
No. That's why.
And so many of us are have left already, and I'm one of the young ones. I'm one of the young ones, and I'm not in great health, so. The replenishment of the ranks is necessary and greatly appreciated. But you all made me very happy and very proud to be on the line with you. Even though I was pushing from the back.
Thank you, sir. And we love our people, and we love all righteous people, and that's how we were raised, coming from this city. And we're going to keep it that way. But you're right, Doc. We don't have to apologize for not wanting, that type of rhetoric in our city or in our neighborhood. So, we can be unapologetic about that.
Oh, yeah. Shut them down.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Hey,
shut them down and shut them up.
Hey, man. Well, thank you for watching. It's your man, Bake. Once again, this is the Westside Collective. I holler.